Welcome to Beyond the Session, a series where I sit down with the people that I've worked with to talk about their reading. We talk about the moments, the realizations, and the shifts that have continued to unfold since their reading. Hi, if you've never seen me before, my name is Jerica. I am a professional psychic medium, and today I am joined by Ashantay. And when I read for Ashantay, we've actually connected with multiple of her loved ones. We've connected with her parents, her partner Max, and her auntie. Ashantay unfortunately has been through a lot of loss, and throughout her journey, the support of her family, here and in spirit, has been incredibly strong, and I've loved all of her sessions. They've been so freaking cool, and it's been amazing to be a part of the experience with her. What stood out to me the most about Ashantay's story is her strength. Even while carrying deep grief, she still continues to choose kindness, growth, and still does great things with her life, which I think is so special and amazing. It's honestly one of my favorite things about her story. I'm super happy for her. I'll let Ashantay share her story in her own words, of course, but I hope her story and this conversation inspires anyone who is grieving right now to remember that support from your loved ones is ongoing, even while they are spirits. You're never truly alone, even in your hardest seasons. And if you feel called to book with me, right now my one-on-one session schedule is only open for the month of February 2026. After that, my sessions will be closed. So if you'd like a session with me, this is the perfect time to book. All of the information will be in this description below. And thank you so much for being here. Let's get into Ashantay's story. Okay, well, welcome in, friend. I want to start off the interview with just asking who you are and how or where you found me.
I am Ashantay. I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. I found you on TikTok. So actually, I was scrolling through my For You page, and I came across you one time actually, and I had just previously gotten or I had seen a previous medium, but the session was just kind of like it was all right. And then I kept seeing you over and over again, but then the TikTok ban was gonna go into effect, and then I was like, oh no, whatever. And then so it didn't end up going into effect, and then I saw you like a week later because I kept seeing you over and over and over again, and I was like, okay, I might as well just like see how it goes. Got the session, like the TikTok live reading session, and it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, I loved your first reading. I remember you being so excited in the chat. I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, this is great for her." I had such a good time. I loved it. I had no idea you were in Canada. Very freaking cool. Love that. Makes sense. I always say Canadian people are super, super nice. There's another person I interviewed. She's also from Canada, and I told her the same thing. You guys are always very nice. I love that. So what experiences have you had with me? I know you just mentioned your first live reading. And also kind of where did your personal journey start with mediumship?
Okay, so my first experience with you, so like I said, it was on the TikTok live initially. It was kind of crazy because immediately you were like, "Did you have a brother? Did you have a brother or like a partner?" And I was like, "That's kind of crazy," because Max had just passed away a few weeks prior, and you're like, the energy is really intense, like
Mm,
from like whoever you were connecting with. And I was like, "Yeah, that makes so much sense." And then it was just like you captured his personality and his essence like so accurately. I remember being so freaked out in the moment, and then you kind of just like knew things that I didn't expect you to know, and then it kind of just kept going on. Like even though it was a TikTok live reading, it was still like very fulfilling, very like crazy, and it was really awesome, and it genuinely like confirmed my beliefs that like mediums are real because I think as a kid like my mom had gotten a reading, and it was interesting, but I never saw like the recording of it or anything like that. And then like I said as well, I had gotten like this mediumship reading probably like 2 weeks prior before I booked with you. And it was all right. It was just kind of like generic stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe mediums aren't real and I'm just kind of grasping at straws. And
mm,
then every reading that I've gotten with you since, it's just kind of like everything pretty much has resonated, whether it be in the moment or even like a few months later down the line. Like I think I rewatched one of our previous sessions about a few weeks ago, and it was kind of crazy because everything was lining up. I was writing like a letter and I thought about something, and then you said it in that moment, and I was like, that's insane. Like what?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's super cool. I love that so much. And I think it's so interesting too that you just said that you were a little bit, you remember feeling a little bit freaked out, which I think is so interesting because I've actually read for a lot of people who felt that. And I think that's kind of the initial shock that you're really understanding that, oh my God, this is actually happening. This is real. And especially if you were already thinking maybe I'm grasping at straws and you didn't have the best experience, beforehand. And so that's really cool that Max came through for you so strong that he was able to really show you that mediumship is real. And I love that reading. That's so awesome. And kind of leading into the next thing, who did we connect with, or who have we connected with? Because everybody watching, I have read for Ashantay many times. She started off with a live mediumship reading, but I have had many one-on-one sessions with her, and I've been lucky to be a part of her journey and connect her with her loved ones so many times. It's been super awesome. So yeah, who have we connected with?
We've connected with quite a few people, actually. You've connected with my ex-partner, so Max, as well
Mm-hmm.
as my dad came through pretty strong. And then my auntie Karen came through as well. And then even one of my cousins that passed away when I was younger, like you
Mm-hmm.
knew, like I remember this too. You had like the knee thing or like when people or the
Mm-hmm.
doctors hit with that, I think it's a reflex thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, there's that. And that's one of my key memories with her is actually being in the hospital and the doctors performing that exercise on her. And so that was really interesting. And I don't think she's popped through a lot since, but still great and awesome. And then it was funny because you're like, you kept asking me certain questions related to my mom, and she was kind of like always in the background, but you have connected with my mom a lot
Mm-hmm.
more recently as well. She's just kind of like a little bit mellow and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's been great.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yes. Yes, we have connected with many people. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to share your story too, because not only because I've gotten to know you and I've read for you so many times, but because I really love your energy, first of all. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to you, especially a lot of younger people will be able to relate to you who have lost their parents specifically. And, I feel like you've had a lot of loss, but I think it's been really cool to watch your loved ones lead you, and it's also been really cool to see your growth. And I think you're just like a badass person, to be honest with you. I really do. I think you're super cool, and I admire your strength because every time I read for you, even though your loved ones have brought up a lot of emotional things, and I know it's been very challenging for you, there are all these losses, which it'd be challenging for anybody. I admire that you continue to go in life. I admire that you are very proactive at making active change in your life, and you haven't let these losses completely throw you off guard. I'm sure you've had your moments like everybody does, but how old are you, can I ask?
I'm 23.
23. Yeah. So you're very young, and I feel like I don't know, I just feel like you have your head on your shoulders, as they say. And regardless of what you've been through, you're still making something of yourself and doing something with your life. And I think that's really cool. And I wanted to highlight your story because I think, first of all, losing people can take you out, and it can, a lot of people just go down bad paths, or they just kind of give up on life. And like I said, I think especially with you being so young, not that I'm like much older than you, but I know you lost your parents young. And so I think that it's going to be great for people to see your story. And I think you're going to be an inspiration to many. So thank you for being here, Shante. I appreciate you, friend. I really do. Um, okay, so deeper questions. What was happening in your life before your first reading with me when we connected with Max?
Okay, so Max had probably passed, yeah, he passed away at the beginning of this year, so around January. So we're coming up on that year.
Mm,
Um, to be honest, like I had just began my major practicum for my social work to finish up my degree.
mm,
And so I was kind of like navigating all this loss and all of this grief and all of these like deep emotions while also trying to keep my head afloat and look for like some sort of meaning that like was connected to this loss. Like I'd experienced my parents at such a young age, as you mentioned, and like I'd never had the opportunity to kind of fully dive into my grief at those times,
mm,
and I kind of repressed it a lot up until like recently, just because I didn't have the opportunities to engage with it in such a deep way. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of just this mix of like drowning but trying to stay afloat and like
Mm-hmm.
looking for any sign that he was here. And so like going back to like the grasping at straws kind of thing, it was like I don't just believe that he's gone. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
want to believe that he was gone. And then so when you kept popping up on my For You page, I was like, hey, something's amiss here. And so that's
Yeah.
why I booked. And um yeah, I wasn't completely like depressed, but it was getting there for sure. So I think that you were definitely sent at a pivotal moment in my life.
That's cool. That's beautiful. I love that. And I'm so happy that we crossed paths. I'm so glad that you found me and I found you and all these beautiful things because that's definitely a common theme I've been noticing in these interviews. I've said it to almost everybody. Almost all of you really found me at a time when you really needed to connect with your loved one and you really needed to hear something. And I think that that says something. I think it's really beautiful to see again how beautiful your loved ones are and how much they guide you because that's my intention with these interviews is to share your guys' story and give other people hope and also show like truly how much your loved ones guide you because I feel like your loved ones have also done such a good job at helping you. And I think that's super special. And I've really seen how much, like, obviously, you guys leave me testimonials. I've read for you multiple times, but in this setting, I've really been noticing genuinely how much um, those of you that do experience mediumship session are actually able to experience your loved ones as spirits and different energies. You know, it's very very fascinating, very cool. So I love that. You kind of just answered my next question, which was what made you feel called to book. But what I guess what made you feel called to book another session? I know you have lost your other loved ones, but I want to actually I've actually been wanting to ask you this. What's made you feel called to book as the sessions you have booked because you booked many with me.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've actually been curious, like, you know, what that's done for you and what that like what makes you feel called other than like connecting with your loved ones, right? Because I feel like there's a deeper meaning behind that. So I've just been curious about that if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, of course. So basically, when I got the first session, it was just kind of like, holy crap, this is real. And the way that I envisioned it previously was, with the loss of my mom, my dad, and, my aunt here, and all the other people, it just kind of was like hit after hit after hit. And then in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, it kind of transformed into this like grief response of being like these people are out of my life forever. They're gone. I'm never going to talk to them ever again. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that. And so when I got the opportunity to like book with you and it was an amazing experience and it confirmed that like I do believe in this stuff, it was like, well, I have the money, why not just book, you know?
Yeah.
And um like I get to experience like my loved ones again, and even though they're not here physically, it was just like such a relief to like get all these confirmations that I'm not navigating this life alone, and that like even though they're not here physically, like they're kind of just in the background and that's okay. And um truth be told, when I was doing my practicum and trying to finish it, like up my education, like booking with you, I was booking with you at the end of every month, just kind of like giving myself motivation to get through that month
Mm.
and that like period of time because it was like I was still navigating like this academic journey, which was extremely overwhelming. I'm working with a lot of vulnerable, at that time, vulnerable youth and kids who like are potentially going through similar situations like me and trying to keep my
Mm-hmm.
head afloat while also telling them and supporting them in their journeys that, it's going to be okay. Like everything's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just kind of like giving myself a reason to keep going and keep chugging along was a huge reason, but also just like navigating my own grief journey because at that point in time I also realized that it's important for me to take care of myself. So I since the beginning of this year I've been consistently attending counseling while also like doing these sessions on the side and just like figuring out my own stuff, and so it's been great. And since I've started working, I haven't had the opportunity to book again,
That's
but
okay.
we're figuring it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you know what? That's perfectly fine. I'm here whenever you're ready. Congratulations with your work. I hope it's going amazing, and that's super awesome. I love that you were booking the sessions to help you with motivation for school. That is so cool. I love that. That's an amazing way to utilize the sessions. Honestly, that's super cool, and sounds like they really helped you. So that's awesome. I think it's you kind of touched on something else I wanted to bring into this conversation is about the counseling, right? Because I've talked to many people that have interviewed about this, is we have counseling and we have therapy and we have all, you know, these things here that are super helpful and they're amazing. But I think mediumship also adds another level. So it's really interesting that you were doing them simultaneously because I don't believe that mediumship is going to be something like getting mediumship sessions is going to take away your pain. You've got many, and I'm sure you've still experienced the pain and still working through it. And so I don't my point is not to say that they are going to take away your pain or they're going to fix everything, but I think it's really cool how you can get the professional help, which is also very, very helpful. I do recommend that if that's something anybody needs is professional help, because it helps the human part of you, but I love how mediumship helps the spiritual side and it gives you that relief that your loved ones really are there and it really takes that weight off of your shoulders so you don't really feel like you're drowning as much, which is super interesting. And how have you kind of noticed, if you don't mind me asking, the work of therapy plus the mediumship sessions, what do you think how do you think they kind of helped you, if you don't mind me asking about
Yeah.
that?
So in my culture, like indigenous culture, there's different aspects to who you are. So it's the physical, emotional, spiritual, and kind of like mental sides, or components of oneself. And so like I kind of leaned into that at the moment. It was like, okay, well, I got to take care of myself mentally and emotionally, but there's also this other aspect of like myself, which is the spiritual side, which I kind of tended to neglect throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because, with all the losses that I've experienced, it was like they're gone. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to be connected to that part of myself whatsoever because what's the point? Like, if creator or God or whoever is going to put me through all of this pain and all of this trauma, then I'm just going to ignore it, essentially. And
Mm.
then, with the loss of Max, particularly, it was like, I can't ignore this. I can't, pretend that it doesn't exist because I was able to do that with my parents somewhat, but with him it was just like kind of going back to the idea of like I just can't believe he's gone. He's got to be
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. I'm gonna try like figure that out and taking care of myself mentally and emotionally and spiritually has really contributed to this healing journey that I've been on. And even recently, like I decided to ask my therapist if we could kind of dive deeper into like diagnoses and sort out what kind of trauma or therapy I should specifically be
Mm.
um in. And that was like a month or two ago now, and so we figured out all of that, and I'll be doing targeted therapy now within this upcoming New Year's, and then really kind of just like walking somewhat of a spiritual journey, like acknowledging the fact that they're there. I want to live for them and they're supporting me and they're guiding me, but also trying to reintegrate into my indigenous culture and trying to find some more opportunities to dive into that, or even just seeking more opportunities to like learn about it and to kind of just be also kind of a role model to the indigenous youth that I'm working alongside. And um, it's interesting because I'm learning alongside them and trying to seek out more opportunities to engage in our cultures and kind of healing that part of me as well, that teenage part of me that didn't get those opportunities before. And
Yeah.
so it's been really interesting and definitely want to look into like doing the physical aspect as well by like working out. Just life
Yeah.
gets busy,
Yeah.
but no, it's been really great and it's been um super cool as well just because like I told my counselor I think on my last session, so this past Tuesday I was like, and I have this upcoming like interview, and she's like, oh, for what? And I was like, well, actually I've been seeing this medium for like the past year. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? Like I have so many clients that see mediums. And I was like, I
Wow.
don't know. But I was like, that's great. Like I like that it's becoming a lot more like I guess it's always kind of been around, but seeing that a lot more people are kind of integrating both approaches, I think is especially useful just because like I think that our spiritual side is definitely something that tends to go neglected or
Hmm.
overlooked and yeah, it's been really useful.
That's cool. That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. I think it's, well, first of all, I think it's super cool that your culture, brings in all aspects because all of it's super important. So that's amazing. And speaking of your culture too, your loved ones have mentioned so many times about like getting into your culture and like,
I know.
practicing more and dancing. Max specifically has told you to dance and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's been very cool that they've also kind of give you the extra nudge and extra push, which is really beautiful in like the most loving way. And I think it's really cool. Would you say, because this is what I've been noticing is that after a lot of the time after mediumship sessions, people's first mediumship session, they have this relief knowing that their loved one is real and they actually are there. They get this proof and this validation and then they let their walls down. Do you think knowing that Max is there and knowing that your parents is there has helped you open up more in therapy as well? Just curious about that.
To be honest, I have been open in therapy.
Mm,
It was not ever something that was stigmatized.
mm,
Growing up, it was always an option for me. Like my mom was a social worker. She always encouraged me to take advantage
very cool.
of the resources available to me. So it was just like, hey, this person's here to talk. I'm gonna talk. But there was definitely a certain level when it came to connecting with other people in my life, like close loved ones, that I just had this certain guard up, and I still do to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually been an ongoing theme that's come up within this past month or two where I had to like reach out for for support from my auntie, and we kind of reached a point where I was just opening up to her and she started crying at the end of like our talk, and she was like, I wish that I could have done this for you
Mm,
when you were younger. This is all I wanted. You've always had this guard up with me. And I'm glad that we've reached this point because I don't even know if I could have supported you then, but I'm glad that you're coming to me now. And this other close friend of mine that I've known since high school, he was like, you just kind of always have this guard up. Like, you don't look at me. Like, you kind of like keep yourself at an arm's length. And it's been interesting, kind of like letting people in because in my mind, it was always like, well, what's the point if I'm going to lose another person that I
mm-hmm.
care about?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I lost Max because Max had always promised that, like, never gonna like leave me. And then it happened, right? And so it
Mm-hmm.
was like, I think that by getting these sessions and realizing that, he didn't actually fully leave me, it's okay to let other people in. And that's just kind of part of the journey, and that's part of life is that we're going to experience like happiness, love, but at the same time, on the other side of that, we're also going to experience loss and pain and,
Mm-hmm.
sadness and whatever it may be. But it's important to recognize when you need support and to take advantage of, the resources available to you and to talk about, that pain that you're experiencing or that grief that you're experiencing from the loss of a loved one and to like really rely on people that you hold close or dear to you. Um, so it definitely has contributed or helped me let some of those guards down, and it's definitely still a work in progress,
Mm-hmm.
but I always was aware of it, but I didn't realize that other people were aware of it
Yeah, isn't
until
that so funny?
recently.
Yeah, that's funny how that works, huh? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Ashante, for sharing all of that. I really love your vulnerability today. I really love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us because I think it's amazing that you are able to connect more with your auntie and you guys, you're able to let more people back in because that's amazing. Because that's one of the first things I remember during your one-on-one session, specifically like your first one. I think when we really connected with your dad, I remember your dad talking about your guard, and I remember feeling your guard too, and that being like a really big thing. So that's really exciting to hear that you're starting to let that down and like really actually work through that. That's amazing. This work is very cool. So thank you so much. That's beautiful. I love that. Congratulations, really, and all the changes and all the things that you're doing. I'm very, very happy for you. Um, What do you think stood out most to you during your session or sessions? Is there any specific things, or I know there's been a lot, but is there anything that's really stuck with you, or from any of your loved ones?
I think that just kind of like what I mentioned previously, where like you knew inside jokes, or particularly with Max, like he had a specific personality and like energy and vibe to him, and it was like really interesting how you just captured it perfectly from the first session that we had, but also like throughout the sessions afterward, getting more of a feel for also his seriousness and how much he cared and how much he cared in his own way, but also like my parents. And like it's interesting because with my mom, like I always kind of envisioned that she would pop in more, but at the same time, like it kind of makes sense that she doesn't. And I think that she's also just like fully aware that like I've got this almost, and she'll step in when she needs to. And with my dad, I was very close with my dad, and so it wasn't surprising when he also like it seems to be a mix of Max and my dad who
Yeah,
pop in the most.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's always advice that I need to hear in that
Hmm.
moment. It's not like generalized advice that sticks out and I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like in the moments and at the times or the days that I get the sessions, it's like you just know what's going on, and I'm like, I can't hide anything. And it's really funny and it's really interesting, but it's also really amazing because um it just confirms that they're there, and it's really just truly like a beautiful experience. And um yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really really cool. And I am of course the translator for you guys, but I'm also very much like a bystander and like a watcher and observer, because I still don't I can feel your guys' connection. I can feel who they are. I can feel what they want to tell me, but I obviously still wasn't there for you guys. I didn't actually see your relationship. And so it's been very interesting to hear your dad like parent you as a spirit and like guide you as a spirit, and like it's been very interesting also to hear Max and even your mom. Your mom definitely has not been crazy chatty, but when she comes through, I definitely feel her spirituality. I feel her gentleness and her tenderness, and um she definitely feels like that soft spoken person in the background. I don't know if she's necessarily was like that, but that's how she feels to me. And so it's just very interesting to observe that. And I think it's very fascinating to literally hear your dad tell you what to do as your dad as a spirit, like it's just cool to be able to be a part of that too. So thank you really for I know I've been thanking everybody like 20 times. I always thank you guys, but I think it's super cool because um everybody talks a lot about how it's super cool that I have this gift and I'm able to connect with everybody and I'm able to connect with spirits, and I 100% agree with that. I think it's very cool that I'm able to do this and other people are able to do this too. But what I find very interesting, and again why I'm really highlighting these sessions, is because like I get to be a part of your guys' very vulnerable and emotional journeys, and it's not just I don't know. It's not this just like surface level connection. And like I thank you guys for letting me be a part of that with you, because I'm the girl that you found on TikTok, and now you're trusting me with some really important stuff. You're allowing me to hold space to share your stories, and that's really cool. And it's equally cool to be a part of it with you guys. I like to talk about that because I think people forget about that. It's the sessions are about the people I'm reading for, not necessarily me. And it's just cool. It's cool. So thank you so much. Okay, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but again, just going more in depth here, how has your mindset or your outlook shifted since your session? Sounds like you are more tapped into your spiritual side, which has been a common theme as well. But what other mind shifts or perspectives about life or just yourself have you noticed?
Just kind of doing what I can to prioritize myself and my well-being during the time that I have on this earth as well, and recognizing that I'm not only living for myself, I'm also living for them, and because they want to see me grow and succeed, has been a huge change in mindset because it
Mm-hmm.
always felt like I was alone after all of these losses. It's kind of up to me to figure things out, and it sucks because they're not here to see me succeed, and I don't know what's going on or why I'm doing this, but in the back of my head, um, you kind of brought this up before, but like there's this one session where you're like, do you like talk to them out loud and ask their thoughts or opinions on things? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, yeah, your dad's kind of mentioning that, like, if he could answer you truthfully or honestly, you wouldn't like his thoughts or opinions or something like that. And so, like, it's kind of been interesting because, like, I will just kind of have a conversation with them out loud sometimes or express myself out loud because, like, it's become a lot more easier to have it out loud and recognize and acknowledge that they're still there rather than it just kind of being all internalized and repressing it and being like, well, they're gone. I can't talk to them anymore. Like, what's the point? So shifting my mindset from a lot more pessimistic view to, you know what, it doesn't hurt to just kind of like be open and be engaged with them, even if I can't hear them, even if I can't see them. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that has been such a shift in my mindset, honestly. And I didn't recognize it until like I've been even thinking about that the past week with the upcoming interview. And I'm like, how have I changed since then?
Mm-hmm.
And initially, when I first started getting the sessions, it was like I was looking for a lot more signs or whatever, and it was really good and it was really awesome. And then over time, it's just kind of like faded out, but it's also become part of my daily life to just be like, they're here, that's
Mm.
great, and getting these signs still and being like, that's really just amazing in its confirmation sometimes to like just think of my dad or think of Max. And in the like before I got the sessions, it was like, oh, why am I thinking about them? But kind of shifting my mindset from I'm thinking about them because maybe they're just popping in to say hi, and that's awesome and that's great. And I can take that now and I can hold it and I can just let it go and move on with my day and still feel that love and um care from them, but not being so negative towards it
Mm-hmm.
anymore, I suppose.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that. I love that so much. That's there's a lot with that because I've noticed this as well. It's just so cool to see like nobody I've interviewed knows each other at all, but you guys have not saying the same things, but saying very similar things, having very similar experiences, and I think that's very interesting. But what I have noticed is that when you experience mediumship session or you just really get the validation that your loved one's there, it almost gives it's like you can kind of take this extra weight you've been carrying, you can set it off to the side. Like you know it's there, but you don't have to carry it around anymore, and you don't have to be, really it literally leaves room for you to grow more. It leaves room for you to shift your mind where you're not thinking why am I thinking about them? Like I don't want to think about them. You're thinking, "Oh, they're just popping in." Like that's so cool that you've been able to shift your mindset in that way. It's so cool that now you are open to hearing from them, which I think is huge. I talk about this on the lives where a lot of people are like, I don't see any signs from my loved ones. And sometimes it's grief, sometimes it's other things too, but a lot of time grief, you can't really see them. Or a lot of people have a hard time actually accepting that their loved one's gone. So they just kind of like pull away from it or they just shy away from it or just don't even acknowledge it, which is sounds like kind of what you were going through at times. And so I think it's really cool to be able to acknowledge their passing. I imagine that's been very healing for you and very comforting for you along your journey, especially since you felt so alone without them. And I just want to say too, for everybody watching, Ashantay's family have been incredibly supportive of her, and they just like I can just feel how much they love and they care about you, and they're all just like popping in. It's so cool to connect with, because not everybody I read for do I get the opportunity to connect with so many different loved ones, but it's been very cool to connect with all your different loved ones because of their different energies and also the different guidances they give you. Like it's cool to feel their personalities in an energetic form. So yeah, it's been awesome. I think your team of people is they're awesome. I really they're cool. They're fun to connect with. Um, I wanted to kind of go with also, we're talking a lot about the good things and the beautiful things have been shifting for you, and that is a beautiful thing to acknowledge. But like I said earlier, mediumship is not a quick fix. It's not going to take away the pain. And I think a lot of people also don't really know how to navigate through their grief or what to do on their harder days, even after a mediumship session, or as they're just processing their grief in general. So what do you do on your harder days, or do you have any advice for those watching to help them with their more challenging days or challenging thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, mm, so like I said, like I have been going to counseling regularly. It's funny because before Max passed away, it was kind of like once, like I'll attend consistently for like a few months and then I'm just gone for like maybe
Mm,
6 months
mm-hmm,
previously. And so we were actually, my counselor and I have been talking about it the past few weeks. It's just like it'll pop in and it'll into the conversation and she'll be like, it's really awesome that you're just like you've been here every week that you can since the beginning of the year. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of have to be honest, because the reality is that it's not you get your session and suddenly you're just healed and that's that. It's definitely like an ongoing process, and I definitely feel like some days I'm 20 steps back and then maybe one day I take a step forward, and it's definitely not linear, and like people say, like healing is not linear, and I've had to kind of recognize that as well throughout this journey is like great, I've connected with them. What do I do with like this
mm,
emptiness afterward? Because the reality is that you have to continue living without, relying on this to kind of fill a void. And so how do you fill that? And connect with them, even though not directly or whatever it may be, in those moments when you don't have a session or those times when you don't have access to a session. So it's like doing things they love, or like I listen to a lot of music that Max liked, or, talking about them, or, just surrounding yourself with loved ones is something that I've been especially doing recently is like, um, really connecting with like my auntie and my brothers, and focusing on work, filling my time with other things, because um throughout the summer I lacked a lot of structure and routine and stability. And so how what I shifted my mindset to be like, well, what do I do during all this free time? Get
mm-hmm,
a job, like really finding ways to keep yourself busy while also acknowledging,
mm-hmm.
yeah, the
Yeah,
pain and the
yeah.
grief and the loss, and validating your feelings and not ignoring them and not repressing them, and thinking about, well, how can I do better for myself has really kind of always been my mindset ever since I was younger, but taking advantage of all the tools and resources that I have at my disposal, while also recognizing that I have loved ones on this earth here right now who want to support me and want to love me and want to care for me. And yes, it sucks that I've lost all these people, but at the end of the day, like, I still have all these people who do care about me, who do
Mm-hmm.
love me. How can I rely on them during times of, sadness? And so just like really acknowledging the that vulnerable side of me and those feelings, and not letting them eat away at me has been critical in this journey for sure.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm loving listening to you, Ashante. Thank you so much for sharing that seriously, because I think first of all, I just want to say it's very brave of you to be doing the work, because the part that really just stuck with me, you just said, "Okay, now I've connected with them. Now how do I deal with this emptiness?" And I think that's super big because again, like I said earlier, connecting with your loved one, everybody experiences it differently, but I think especially if you are in a really maybe not so good space, kind of like you were when we first came across each other, you know when you connect with them, it really does open up that door to say, hey, okay, what healing can I do now? Because, like you said, you know they're looking after you, you know they're watching you, you know that they're, there with you every single day. So you also kind of have that almost like accountability that's like, okay, dad's definitely watching me. And like, I know my next session, if I don't do this thing, dad's going to say something, right? And so I think that's pretty cool because it does take a lot of work to actually do the healing and, connecting with them is just part of the healing. And I think the connection with them gives you that grounding space to be able to come back to whenever you feel like you want to give up or when you are having that hard time or harder days. So I think it's really cool that you have actively like taken the resources, you're actively doing the work to do better because it's difficult one to do it and not everybody's wanting to do it or willing to do it. That is of course never to pass any judgment on people because everybody has their moments, but I think it's cool that you are doing it and you definitely should congratulate yourself for that. I'm sure your family, I know they're very proud of you for what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And I just think it's cool how everything has transpired and changed for you. And I remember specifically too, I think this was your dad again, talking about how like to let your family in more and to connect more with your family and stuff like that, like the people that you did have, like you have still alive. So I think it's very cool that that has been happening for you. And I'm really happy. I'm really happy for you also that you are allowing yourself to be supported by other people because that is a big deal. And I feel like that's been a big deal for you. And so I'm very happy for you, Miss Independent Ashantay. We love that girl. But I love that you've been letting other people support you and hold you during this time as you are healing too. I think that's very, very beautiful. And I truly think your story is going to inspire a lot of people. So yeah, thank you again for sharing that. I know it's not always easy to let yourself rest on other people, especially when you've been used to having this kind of like harder exterior. But I'm so grateful for you being here. I'm grateful that you have family to be with, and I really am just so happy for you. I think what you said too about the things that you are doing to help yourself on hard days is really helpful tips. So thank you for sharing that. Um, and again, what changes or transformations have you noticed in your day-to-day life? Like this could be like little things too. Have you noticed maybe it's easier to get up in the morning, or it's easier to take feed yourself and things like this? What have you experienced?
I don't it's gonna sound a little bit crazy, but I kind of have like this internal monologue now about okay, so let's reference the original conversation. So I have been navigating a difficult period of my life within the past month or so. And so there was this one session where you connected with Max and he asked me, what am I doing? Because it was related to I was talking with an ex. And so um, we kind of come full circle on that now where that connection has officially ended now. And I think back to a year ago when Max was still alive and we had like our final conversation was him kind of giving me shit over the same dude. And um
Yeah,
yeah.
that's funny.
And so it's been an ongoing, like, throughout the past month, a what are you doing kind of thing from Max. And then, these constant nudges to kind of like not get my crap together, whatever it may be, but from my dad, reach out to family, reach out to loved ones. It's like, I wouldn't say an internal monologue, but like these reminders that pop into my head where it's like, Ashante, what was I doing? Like,
Yeah.
why did I put myself in that situation? And, even though Max isn't here physically to, have that conversation with me anymore, I still hear that little voice in the back of my head the past few weeks of like him reminding me that like I deserve better and I deserve to, be loved fully and wholly. Um, because that's what he would have wanted for me. But
Hmm.
also like how do I support myself during this difficult time and not just be a hard ass on myself?
Hmm.
And getting those nudges from my dad and to be like, connect with your culture, connect with your family, connect with, the resources and tools that you have available. Like, and that's like my mom right there. Like even though they're not here physically, they all taught me something important.
Hmm.
And It's those reminders that keep me going. Like what they taught me and what they continue to teach me is what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that so much. And I love there's just so many fascinating parts of, but that is so incredibly cool that they are able to guide you when they're not even physically here. Like I just can't get over that. It's been, because like obviously, I read for you guys, I hear your stories. I'm along the journey with you in a sense. Obviously, not day to day with everything you're doing on the back end. That's totally you, but like actually listening to you guys re-talk about everything and getting more insight into what you're actually doing after the sessions is really cool because almost every single person I've interviewed, it's like you all come back to that. They told me to do this thing, I'm gonna do it. And I think it's cool too because it really shows you that like you are not alone, which is what I say all the time, but also you don't have to figure it all out alone either. And I think that's super cool too because especially in your situation, I'm sure there was a lot of things that you have had to figure out on your own that you shouldn't have had to figure out. I'm sure there's been a lot of confusion for you, um, and I feel like I'm sure you've had to grow up quicker than you should have. And so it's nice for you to have I think it's just been so cool for you to have those parent figures and everything. Like I can't get over that for you. I think that's so cool that they still are guiding you. I love it. So that's amazing, Ashante. I really am so happy for you. Um, so if somebody is unsure about booking a session, what would you want them to know? Maybe you could give insight in what you want them to know for the session, but maybe even after the session too, kind of what your recommendations are. Because I think after the session is equally as important, if not even more important, than showing up to the actual session.
Um, Booking the session, just kind of going into it with an open mind was definitely something that I had to prioritize. And not having any necessary or certain expectations about what to expect or who to expect was definitely something that I had to prioritize as well. And then also like not being afraid to do it alone. I recently got a session with my auntie, and she was like, I would never do that alone. And I was like, you don't have to do it alone. Like, I can do it with you if that's what you want. But also, like, just taking advantage of, like, if you have that extra person who you would like to be there, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and then for after the session, I just book the day off, to be honest. And a huge part of that is like, because yeah, it's an hour, but leading up to it is even like very thrilling, very exhilarating. It's like you're excited, this is awesome, this is great. I'm really looking forward to this, but the after effect is like sometimes the sessions are heavy, sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
lighthearted or with like little cry moments in between, whatever it may be, just whatever the vibe of the session is that day, you never really know. And so there have been times where like I just like book the day off. I don't schedule anything afterward that is serious. Um, and then also like filling your time after, like obviously have that time to decompress, cry, I don't know, go for a walk, whatever it may be. I've definitely just cried and napped afterward, because it is like a huge emotional toll on you. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a mix of feelings that are happy and sad and joyful and content or whatever it may be. And so, like, just this like little tornado of emotions and working through
Mm-hmm.
that and taking time to take care of yourself afterward is really important. And the amount of times I've been told to go on a walk after a session by my dad or Max or whoever it may be, I it's been a lot, I think.
Yeah. I think it's been a lot too. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that is honestly amazing advice. Like book the day off. I think that's incredible advice because I think you're really right. like I said, we keep talking about the great things on the beautiful things. And this is, I think it's also important to talk about the emotional aspect, not to turn anybody away from a mediumship session, but because that is the realness of it. Yes, you are getting validations that your loved one is there, but then it's also like, holy shit, you're getting validations that your loved one is there. Like, oh my God, they're actually with me. And like, oh my God, what's happening? And then again, they're talking to you about all these things going on in your life. And then it really, like, you really have to kind of sit with yourself. Like, you really have to kind of, whoa. It can be a shock to the system a little bit. And so I think really processing the emotional aspect afterwards is super important. Even with these interviews, taking time afterwards, if you need to do that too, is super important too. But I love that. Book the day off is a great piece of advice. I haven't heard anybody say that yet, because you might cry afterwards, or you might feel anger, or but again, this is just what happens when you allow yourself to process emotions. It's not a bad thing. It's nothing to be scared of. It's just opening doors for you so you can release that energy and move forward with your life like you are. And many of the people I've been interviewing have actually been taking their pain, and they've literally been turning it into beautiful things and committing to themselves and bettering themselves. And I think that is so inspirational. I'm inspired by all of you. I've had my own, I've lost my own people, but it's been a while since I've really lost somebody and had to kind of go through that. And so I do feel, everybody's pain, but I don't know, it's just inspiring and beautiful to connect with others and see kind of how everybody is experiencing things. And the first round of you that I have asked to interview, everybody has kind of lost different people. So it's cool to see different aspects and different sides. Um, so yeah, is there anything you want to add to that? It's cool. If not, if you don't want to say anything else, I just want to give that space. If not, okay, cool, awesome. Thank you, friend. All right. So just kind of wrapping up here. Did the sessions give you a sense of peace, clarity, or confidence about anything that you were struggling with?
Just particularly the fact that they're not gone. I keep coming back to that, but when Max was alive, and I always reference him because his loss has just been arguably the biggest, ironically,
Mm,
um, compared to like, the loss of my parents or my auntie or my cousin or whoever it may be, is like it always felt like something that I expected to happen, I expected to happen in one way or another, but with Max specifically, it was just like never something that I ever expected. And so not I just I with who he was and who he is, I just couldn't accept the fact that he was gone. And
mm-hmm,
so, getting that confirmation that he hasn't really left me has provided me such a great amount of peace and clarity, and it continues to inspire me to like move forward and push forward because I know that he would have wanted me to. And yeah, I could say the same thing about my parents, and I do love and I do appreciate them, and they're also part of that journey, but um the freshest loss is Max, so that's the one I can reference the most recently.
mm,
And it's just really like it's such like it's really reassuring at the end of the day. And also having the reassurance that like if I wanted to connect with him, he would be there, like whether that be like
mm,
just like a little nudge or a reminder that I get from him on a day-to-day basis, or like a dream that I have of him, or like having these sessions with you, like he's never really fully gone and they're never really fully gone, and that has provided me just like so much reassurance, to be honest.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. I honestly don't blame you. I feel like that is of course I have so many goals with this work, but that's like obviously number one is for you guys, for as many people as I can, to really experience knowing that their loved ones are not gone. And I think it's different too watching other people versus like getting your own reading, because then you really feel it. So I think it's amazing. I think your story is absolutely amazing. I think that you are going to accomplish a lot of really beautiful things in your life. I think you're going to continue to flourish. And I think they're going to definitely be continue to be huge supports in your life. And I love that you are not only living for yourself, but you're living for them as well. I think that's amazing, Ashante. I'm so proud of you. I am, friend. I really am. I'm very proud of you and all the things that you are doing. And I'm grateful to have been a part of your journey. And thank you for sharing your story today. I cannot wait for so many people to see it. And
Thank you.
you are so welcome. Is there anything else that you want to share or talk about or anything as we're wrapping up here?
No, I'm also just like extremely appreciative of you. Like you have helped me more than you know, and I know that you explain yourself as being on the sidelines, but I also think that when I reflect on the sessions, it's like I'm so grateful that you do this, and I think that the work that you do is so admirable, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to like interview me.
Yeah, of course, of course, of course.